A few days before leaving the White House, Joe Biden has just admitted that Israel has committed serious war crimes and crimes against humanity. Honestly, Joe Biden's speech that you are going to hear right now in this video is a confession. Undoubtedly, he has admitted his complicity in the crime of genocide. I don't know if he really planned to say what he said, or if he said it by accident. In his interview, he began by talking about the very first conversation he had with Netanyahu a few days after October 7th.
When I went to Israel, immediately after their attack by Hamas, 8 days later, whatever it was, and I told him we were going to help. And I said, but Bibi, I said, you can't be carpet bombing these communities. And he said to me, well, you did it. You carpet bomb, not his exact words, but you carpet bomb Berlin. You dropped a nuclear weapon. You killed thousands of innocent people because you had to in order to win a war. I said, but that's why we came up with the UN. New deals by which what we would do relative to civilians and military.
So let's contextualize this speech a little bit. The first question that comes to mind is, why is Joe Biden on the very end of his term publicly stating that he told Netanyahu not to bomb civilians, while the entire world knows that he is the one who armed Israel to the teeth for 15 months, when they were committing what has been described by the International Criminal Court as war crimes and crimes against humanity, as well as genocide? The answer to this question is that Biden thinks that saying this will help him go down in history. He is conscious that history is set to return a damning indictment of his time in the White House, as this poll from PBS News finds that 1 in 3 Americans believe Joe Biden will go down in the history books as one of the worst presidents ever. He spoke of a comparison in which Netanyahu legitimized his criminal actions by comparing it with what the Americans did during World War II.
And he said to me, well, you did it. You dropped a nuclear weapon. You killed thousands of innocent people because you had to in order to win a war.
This is so disgusting to listen to. Using a crime that took place in a primitive era to justify criminal acts in the 21st century by what is supposed to be one of the most sophisticated armies on the planet is shameful. Nothing can justify decades of brutal occupation, colonization, ethnic cleansing, siege, mass slaughter of Palestinians, etc. There is no comparison here. This comparison is disgusting, but it is not surprising to hear this from one of the greatest monsters of our time. Joe Biden did not stop there. He goes so far as to wash his hands of the matter by showing that despite his efforts to stop Netanyahu from killing civilians, Netanyahu refused to listen to him, and that he gave a legitimate argument that made Biden understand. Watch this.
So he was comparing 21st century war tactics, battle tactics, with World War II.
Well, what he was really doing is he was going after me for saying you can't indiscriminately bomb civilian areas, even if the bad guys are there. Even if the bad guys are there, you can't take out 2, 10, 12, 1,500 people, innocent people, in order to get the one bad guy. And he made a legitimate argument. His perspective said, look, these are the guys that kill my people. These are the guys that are all over in these tunnels. Nobody had any idea the miles of tunnels are down there. It's amazing what they built. And they're sometimes 200 feet under the ground. Well, the way to get to them is take out the places where they were under which they got to the tunnels.
Again, why is this man saying all this on the very eve of his presidency? In fact, by saying this, Joe Biden thinks the world will believe that he was against barbaric and indiscriminate bombing of innocent people in Gaza, the majority of whom are women and children. Joe Biden have thousands of innocent dead on his conscience, and this interview is in fact a confession. If Joe Biden were to find himself before the International Criminal Court, these words alone would be enough to convict him of complicity in war crimes and crimes against humanity, because it proves that he knew exactly what Netanyahu's army was doing in Gaza, and he supported it. He supported it because since October 7, 2023, Israel has received more than $17 billion in military aid, which is a huge amount of money. The US government has sent Israel thousands of 2,000-pound bombs since October 7th, knowing full well that these bombs were being used to mass murder civilians. In March 2024, a UN investigation revealed that more children had been killed in 4 months in Gaza than in 4 years of war around the world. By that time, over 12,000 children had already been murdered by Netanyahu's army. They bombed schools, mosques, and hospitals, where over 1,000 doctors and nurses were killed, and Joe Biden knew it. What's even more desolating is that Joe Biden is lying that he pushed hard for humanitarian aid to get into Gaza. Listen.
So on that first trip, 10, 11 days after October 7th, you already raised the issues of how to get to a ceasefire.
Well, not a ceasefire. How to prevent innocent death.
Yes.
And then I pushed really, really hard for more humanitarian aid to go in. More humanitarian aid to go in.
Humanitarian aid. What did he do to ensure that hundreds of thousands of people starving in Gaza receive humanitarian aid? Nothing. We've seen many reports showing that Israel's siege of Gaza has blocked over 80% of humanitarian aid into Gaza. Furthermore, American laws required the US to stop sending weapons to Israel, but Joe Biden used his power to break those laws, and he continued to supply Israel with a lot of weapons. So, to say that he pushed hard to get humanitarian aid into Gaza, while he was the one sending weapons to kill those people, not making sense. Finally, Joe Biden is trying to wash his hands. He knows that Israel has committed war crimes and crimes of genocide. He knows this because he has been the president of the country with the most sophisticated intelligence agency in the world, so he knows everything they did, and he knows that he played a significant role in facilitating these crimes. He knows that he is a war criminal and that he deserves to be in prison, and history will always remember him as a war criminal. Thank you for your time.